Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Testing Tricks. Today I would like to share a few Selenium related interview questions and answers, and this video will be applicable for 1 to 5 years of experience candidates. And this is part 1 video. I'll share one more video, so that part 2 video will be based on different scenario based questions. Okay, so let's start the discussion now. Okay, so the first question would be, what is WebDriver? Many people are saying in interview that WebDriver is a class, but it is a wrong answer. Okay, so you have to tell WebDriver is an interface, not a class. Okay, now coming to the second question. Can you please explain the below snippet? WebDriver driver is equal to new Firefox driver. So what you have to explain here to the interviewer, that WebDriver is an interface, driver is a reference variable, new, you all know that it is a Java keyword, and Firefox driver is a class which implements the method of WebDriver interface. Okay, so this is the explanation you should give to the interviewer. Okay, so don't tell that WebDriver is a class or driver is a object, because you know that you cannot create an object of the interface. Okay, so driver is a reference variable here. Okay, and Firefox driver is a class which mainly implements the method of WebDriver interface. Okay, so now coming to the next question, tell me the difference between close and quit in Selenium. Okay, so if you use close method, then WebDriver will close the current browser window. Suppose you have opened multiple tab, okay, and right now you are controlling fourth tab. So in that case, WebDriver will close only fourth tab, not previous three tabs which have already opened. Those three tabs it will not close, because currently WebDriver is controlling the fourth tab. So that particular browser window or tab it will close. But if you use quit method, WebDriver will close all the browser window which you have opened or which are opened by the WebDriver. So in that case, it will close entire all the tabs, and enter browser window it will close. So that is the main difference between close and quit method. So close will close only the current browser window, but quit method will close all the browser window which is opened by the WebDriver. Okay, I hope it's clear. Now coming to the next question. Which are the locators you are using in Selenium and why? So you all know that we are always preferring to the ID, because ID is not always changing. So ID locators will be the first preference. Then you can use the name, contains method, and starts with. So those are the basic locators and important locators which you have to use in your project. Okay, coming to the next question. Tell me the difference between find element and find elements in Selenium. So this is one of the important question actually. Many interviewees asking this question. What is the difference between find element and find elements? So if you use find element, that means you are uniquely identifying the web element inside a web page. Okay. But if you're using find elements, in that case, it is identifying the list of web element in a web page. So if you want to go for list of web elements, then you have to use find elements method. But if you want only one unique web element, then you have to use find element method. That is the basic difference. Okay. Now coming to the next question. When to start automation? You know, if your product is not stable, in that case, if you will do any automation, then obviously your all the automation test cases will fail. Okay. So after stabilizing the application, you can start the automation. Suppose in the first sprint you got several defects, second sprint also you got many defects. But from the third sprint you saw your those issue are already resolved by the development team, and you're good to go with the testing. Okay. So in that case you can say that, okay, as from the third sprint or a product is stable, then we can start automation from the third sprint itself. But in that time, you have to start you have to start the automation, and you have to pick those test cases from the sprint one only, not from sprint three, because those sprint one and sprint two test cases also you have to automate. So obviously you have to start from sprint one. So actually ideal process will be automation should be always one sprint behind, because we are considering if in the first sprint if it is not stable, then obviously from the second sprint we are expecting your build is also stable and your application is also stable. So in that case we can start automating the test cases from the sprint one. Okay, so the criteria would be one criteria: until or unless product is not stable, you should not start any automation. Okay, now coming to the next question: which are the test cases you will consider for automation? Obviously the test cases which are taking long time to execute, those test cases you should consider under automation. Some of the flow you are doing every day, log in, log out, some of the searching, some of the search functionality, some of the report functionality you are doing. Okay, I'm just giving an example here. So those are the workflows which you are doing every day. So those workflow you can easily automate, right? So that you can reduce the manual execution time. So those are the test cases also you can consider under automation. And some of the smoke test cases also you can consider, because as you know, whenever any new build will be deployed to your environment, we are always doing the smoke testing to check the critical functionality. So it would be really great if you'll automate some of the critical functionality also. Okay. So those are the test cases you should consider, which are repetitive test cases, which the test cases which or flow which you are doing every day. Those are the test cases you can consider for automation. Some of the critical functionality test cases also you can consider in automation. And some of the test cases are very much time consuming. So those test cases also you can consider. Okay. So the next question is, what is the difference between action and actions in Selenium? So actions is a class. Suppose you want to do some drag and drop activity or mouse over part, some keyboard action you have to perform. So for that, you have to use actions class. Okay. Actions action is equal to new actions of driver, then action dot drag and drop, action dot right click, action dot move to element. So those are the method inbuilt method you will get inside actions class. Okay. So actions is a class, but action is an interface. That is the basic difference between actions and action. Okay. Next question is a very basic question, but many of you guys are not able to answer properly. What is the difference between relative path and absolute XPath in Selenium, and which is best to use and why? This is the very important question. In interview will ask this particular question 100%. So relative path, you know that we are directly identifying the element from the parent node. Okay, not we are trying to find the element from the starting node. Okay, so the relative using relative path, we are trying to find that element directly from the parent node. So you know it is relative path is identified by double slash, and absolute path will be identified by single slash. Okay, so if we'll go with the relative path, then obviously we can directly reach to the parent node and we can find the element. But if you're using absolute path, what it will do, WebDriver will try to find the element from the starting root, starting node of your web page or from the DOM structure. So in future, what will happen if developer will insert any extra uh, tag? In that case, your entire path will be changed, right? So obviously, your XPath will change and your automation test case will also fail. So as a good practice, you should use the relative path. Okay. Now coming to the next question, how do you select options from the drop down? Okay. So you know in Selenium you're using select command. So select is equal to new select, and after that you have to mention the X path. Suppose you have a username field. On that particular username field you want to uh, find that XPath for that particular username text. So that particular entire XPath you can mention inside this. Maybe it will be part of anchor tag, it will be part of input tag, or it will be part of div tag. So double slash input at the rate ID is equal to username. So that's that XPath you have to mention here, right? Then after that you can mention set select dot select by visible text. Suppose there is a multiple options are available from that particular options you want to select um, mango option. Okay, so you have to mention mango. So if you want to do with index, then that is also possible. If it is in second option, then you have to give index of 1, because you know indexing is always starting from 0. Okay, so if you want to select any options from the drop down, in that case you should use select command, and after that inside select will get all the inbuilt methods. Select by visible text, select by index will get. So by using those command you can easily select the option from the drop down. Okay, now coming to the next question. How do you enter text inside a text box without using send keys method? Okay, so as you know that you can easily type the text inside a text box using send keys method, you know. Okay, but this question they're not asking. They're asking without using send keys method, how do you text? How do you type any text inside a text box? Okay, so what you have to do in this case, you have to use JavaScript executor of JavaScript executor of driver, then js.execute script. You have to use document.getElement by ID. Suppose inside a username text box, you got the XPath by ID. Okay, you are giving ID. That ID will be uname, and that value of that particular username field will be test. So you have to type test inside a username text box. So for that you have to identify the XPath. So you are going with the ID. So that ID of that particular username text box is uname. So that particular ID you are mentioning here. Then after that you have to mention dot value, which value you want to type inside that. That is test. Okay. So if you use this particular JavaScript executor, okay, and if you use document.getElement by ID method, then you can easily achieve that without using send keys method. Okay. This is very important question. Now coming to the next question, how do you handle dynamic web element in Selenium? You have to understand what is dynamic web element in Selenium. First of all, suppose you have given one X path for that particular username text field, okay, and you know that ID will be test now, okay. But what will happen sometimes whenever you will refresh that particular page, or if you reload that particular page, then that time that ID will change to test now system. Okay, so that means your ID is always changing. Suppose if it is a name, I'm just giving an example with ID, but suppose if you are mentioning name, then name is equal to test now. Suppose you are using name locator, then also you're saying you're getting that it is changed test now to test now system after page load. Okay, so what we'll do in that case, initially you had given test now, but right now test now systems, obviously your test case will fail, right? So this kind of like behavior we saw multiple times whenever you will upload the, sorry, whenever you will reload the page, or whenever you will refresh the page. Okay, so how do you handle this kind of behavior? So in this case, you can use contains method or starts with method also you can use. So these are the syntax for those. Okay, so what will happen? Before page load, it was test now. After page load, it is a test now system. But you can check test is common, right? So test now is common. So you can use contains method. Entire part is test now system, but out of test now system, entire this particular statement, test now part is actually common, right? So you can use contains method, so it will work. Otherwise, you can see before page load it was test now, where the first four test is static, And here also after page load also it is a new ID has come, but still test now part is static here also. So you can write starts with also you can use. Okay, so start with command also you can use. Either contents or either you can use starts with. In both the cases it will work. Okay, so in this way you can handle dynamic element. It's better to use contents or starts with. It will definitely work for you. So the next question would be, how do you select web element inside a frame? So many times we saw that you have already given the X path for that particular web element, but whenever you were executing, you saw that WebDriver is not able to click that particular web element. Later we realize that it is inside a frame. So how do you handle that particular frame? So before clicking on that particular web element, what you have to do, you have to mention the frame also. So frame you can mention with the frame ID because every frame has frame ID or frame name. So you have to identify that frame first. You have to write XPath for that. Then after that frame, you have to write that particular XPath identification also you have to do for that particular web element. Then only it will work. So if you'll skip the frame part and then if you'll try to click on that particular web event, it will not work. So you have to first mention frame ID or frame name. You can first identify that particular frame. Then after that second line, you have to write your entire XPath for that particular web element. That means you are saying to the WebDriver that it will be inside frame. That's why if you go to this particular frame, this has the frame ID or frame name. If you go to this frame, then after that inside that frame, I am trying to click on that particular web element. So then WebDriver will understand, okay, it is first frame you have to go, then after that you have to click on that particular web element. Then it will work. But if you skip the first part, the frame part, then it will not click. Every time your test case will fail. Okay, so that is how we have to handle the uh, wave element which are inside a frame. Okay, now coming to the next question, how do you handle multiple window in Selenium? So you know there are two methods are available, get window handle and get window handles. Okay, so with get window handle, what you can do, you will get first parent window. Okay, suppose you are in one page and you have clicked one of the button or one of the option, then there are multiple child window have opened. Okay, so in that case, what you will do, you have to use get window handles to fetch all the child window. So first you are in parent window. How do you identify the parent window? For that you are using get window handle method. But after clicking one of the option, you are getting multiple child window. So for that you are using get window handles method. Okay. Then after that what you have to do? You have to use for loop. Inside a for loop you have to use iterator method. So what iterator will do? Iterator will iterate one by one child window and it is comparing with the main parent window. Okay. And finally what it will do? It will switch to the main parent window. So this is the whole steps you have to perform. First you have to fetch parent window with the get window handle. Then you have to fetch all the child window using get window handles. Then inside a for loop you have to use iterator method which will iterate one by one all the child window and then it will compare with the parent window. Then final steps is you have to switch back to the main parent window. So that is how you can handle the multiple window in Selenium. So coming to the next question, which locator is best to use in Selenium and why? Obviously, ID is not changing always. So as a good practice, you should use the ID. Okay. Next question is now, how do you handle hidden element in Selenium? Sometimes some of the web elements are not available in a DOM. Okay. They're not available on that particular web page. That means they're hidden. So if the element are hidden, then how do you click on that particular web element, right? So for that, one option is there, that is the JavaScript executor. So suppose this is the identification part, web element is equal to driver.find element by dot xpath. Suppose you can consider username text box where the ID is testing. So you have to click on that particular username text box. Okay. But you know that particular option when you are giving web element, this particular line, whenever you are giving and you try to uh, give mm, some send keys method, or if you want to click on that particular text box, it is not working every time. Okay. Then what you can do, you can use JavaScript executor. Okay. Using this JavaScript executor command, what will happen? It will check the visibility of that particular web element. Okay. Then after that it will click. So what you have to do, you first have to identify the element, and that particular element very well, element 1 ele1, that particular element very well you have to pass inside JavaScript executor. So first it will check the visibility, then it will click. So if it is hidden also, it will first check the visibility. Okay. So using JavaScript executor you can achieve that. Okay. The next question is, what is data driven testing? Suppose you have a login page, okay, and your team lead is saying you have to check all the combination. So what you can do, you can try with username password. So there are multiple combination will be coming, right? So you can try with valid password, invalid username, invalid password, valid username. So these are the many combinations you can try. But how to do for that? You can do one Excel sheet, and all the combination you can write, and you can fetch that particular Excel sheet data at the time of executing, so that your Selenium uh, WebDriver will go to that particular Excel sheet, and you know how to achieve that. You can use Apache POI library. Using that Apache POI library, you can easily do that. Okay, and it will read first your Excel sheet, and it will check all the combination, and it will try to give username and password. Okay, if you'll give continuously, then you can obviously test your login page whether it, in which scenario it is failing and in which scenario it is passing. So that is the data-driven testing. So if you want to test your application using multiple input parameter, in that case you have to do the data-driven testing. Okay, so that answer you should give. Next question is, which design pattern you are using in your project? So there are multiple design pattern are available. Page object model, page factory design pattern is also there. Singleton design pattern, object design pattern is also there. Okay, so mainly popular design patterns are POM and page factory. Okay, you can use singleton also, but these are the design pattern you are using. Many people are not able to answer these particular questions. They got confused. They know the framework, but they don't know the design pattern. But they are using it already. Okay, so page object model and page factory, those are the design pattern. Okay, so that answer you should give. So next question would be, which is best, page object model or page factory design pattern? So obviously I would prefer page factory design pattern, because for page factory it doesn't require any initialization part for all the objects, but where for page object model you have to initialize each and every objects. Okay, as you are not initializing the all the objects in page factory, then obviously you have to write a less code compared to page object model. Okay, from the code reusability and maintainability side, if you'll think about, both are good. Page object model and page factory design pattern, both are good. But if you want to go with the less code, then obviously I would prefer page factory design pattern, and where you are you are not required to initialize all the objects, right, for page factory. So obviously I would prefer the page factory design pattern of design pattern. Okay. So coming to the next question, how do you identify the broken links in Selenium? This is very good question actually. So what you will do, you have to first tell to the interviewer that first you will fetch all the links using anchor tag. You know, any links, if it is available, obviously it should be under anchor tag. Okay, so first you have to fetch all the links using anchor tag from the web page, and after that you have to store it inside a list. Okay, now second step, what you will tell, then you have to iterate the list using iterator method, and it will check the element in the list. So you got all the links. Now you have to do comparison. Okay, so how you will do, you have to create HTTP URL connection. Okay, then after that you have to verify all the links with HTTP status code. Okay, So if it is greater than equal to 400, that means it is a broken links. Otherwise, it is a valid link. Okay, so these are the steps you have to follow, and you have to tell that first you have to fetch all the links, and you'll get it using anchor tag. Then after that, you have to iterate all the links, and you'll check the element in the list. And after that, you have to do the HTTP URL connection, like how we are launching any URL. It should be HTTPS or HTTP colon double slash, like similar way it will be coming. Okay, then after that, that particular link, whenever you will paste it, then if it is a success message, 200 okay message it will give. If it is not, then obviously it will say that no, sorry, uh, this page is not responsive. That kind of error you will get, right? So the similar way in from Selenium coding side also you have to do the same thing. Okay, so first you have to fetch, then store is inside a list, then you have to compare all the links using iterator method. Then after that you have to create a connection with HTTP URL connection. That method is also available in Selenium. That connection you have to establish. Then after that you have to compare whether it is giving greater than equal to 400 message or not. If it is giving greater than equal to 400 message, then it is a broken link. Otherwise, it is a valid link. So that answer you should give. So next question would be, which test case will execute first if both are having the same priority? So I have already given this snippet. Test priority is equal to 1. This is also one of the test which is also same priority. In that case, what will happen? Which test case will execute first? It will execute based on the alphabetical order. So as A is coming before O, then obviously this particular method will execute first and it will print high message. Okay. Next question is, what is stale element exception and how do you handle it? It is a very important question, and interviewer will ask definitely. So stale element exception is when that element is not present in your current DOM, okay, or current web page. So what will happen and when it will happen actually? So suppose if you're loading the page or if you're refreshing the page, sometimes that particular element is not present that time, okay. So that time you'll get that particular stale element exception. So how do you handle it? So solution would be, you have to wait for the element. So how to wait and what are the uh, different kind of waits we are using in Selenium. So you can use explicit wait and use presence of element located condition, because whenever you will give wait dot until presence of element located, that particular condition if you use, then we are telling to the WebDriver first, let it load. Okay, let it load that particular uh, web element. Then after that we'll do the operation. Okay, so if you use explicit wait and inside explicit wait, if you use the condition like presence of element located, then we can handle this particular exception. And second is use driver.navigator.refresh method inside a catch block so that element will be recreated again. Suppose inside a try block you are trying to click on element, but you got this stale element exception. It's not clicked and you got stale element exception. Obviously, whenever it is coming that particular exception, then obviously it will come to catch block. Okay. But in catch block, what you are doing, whenever you are getting this exception, again you are refreshing that particular page. So whenever you are refreshing this particular page, then automatically this element again it will recreate and you can after that do the click operation. Then it will work. Okay. So that is the two solution you can give, you can tell to the interviewer. Okay. Next is what are the different type of weights you are using in Selenium and which is the best to use and why. So you can tell there are different kind of weights you are using, implicitly weight, explicit weight, fluent weight you are using in your project. But if you want me to ask the best weight, then obviously you should use explicit weight. Implicitly weight is by default, it is a global weight. If you will not give implicitly weight, by default it is applicable. By default it is implemented in your project. Okay, in Selenium. So it's better to use explicit weight. Okay. because inside explicit wait you can give multiple conditions. You can check the visibility of the element, you can try presence of element. Those things, those methods will get easily using explicit wait. Okay, because sometimes the page is not loading, and before page loaded we are trying to click and or click on that particular option or web element, so then that time obviously it will fail, right? Until or unless that page is not loaded or element is not loaded on that particular web page, you should not do any operation. Otherwise, your automation test case will fail. So how do you check whether your page is loaded or whether web element is visible or not? So all the things you can check using explicit wait conditions. So obviously, it is a best uh, to use explicit wait in your project. Okay. Coming to the next question, how do you execute only failed test cases in Selenium? Suppose you are executing around 30 test cases. Okay. Out of 30, 20 passed and 10 are failed. Now your test lead is saying, no, no need to execute all 20 past test cases. I want only 10 test cases you have to execute and just check whether it is passing or not. So for that, what you have to do, you know, you'll get whenever execution completes, obviously you'll get all the result under test output folder in your framework. Okay, so you have to go to the test output folder and you will get testng hyphen filled.xml file you'll get under test output folder. So what you will do, you have to just re-execute only testng hyphen filled.xml file. In that case, what will happen? It will execute only failed test cases, and after that you can check whether it is passed or not. Okay, in this way you can execute or you can focus only the failed test cases, not the passed test cases. Coming to the next question, can you tell me the difference between navigate and get method in Selenium? So if you use driver.get and then after that if you mention the URL, then that it will WebDriver or it will uh, redirect that particular website to the new browser and it will launch, right? Navigate also doing the same thing. If you use driver.navigate.go to URL, that is also doing the same thing. Then what is the difference? The difference is get method is a part of WebDriver interface. Okay, and it does not support any forward, refresh, and back feature. And also one drawback of the get method is it waits until the web page is loaded properly. Okay, so until or unless the page is not loaded, it will not type the enter URL. That is on the drawback. But navigate method, it is a part of navigation interface. It's not a part of a driver interface. And there is a method driver.navigate.refresh, driver.navigate.back, driver.navigate.refresh. Those methods, inbuilt method are available inside navigation method. Okay, so it supports forward, refresh, and back feature. Okay, and it does not wait for that particular web page to be loaded properly or not. It is not depending on web page load. So that is the main difference between get and navigate. Okay. Now coming to the next question. How many test cases you are automating in a day? Okay, this is one kind of managerial question, but it's better to prepare. Uh, you can say if there are small test cases which includes 5 to 10 steps, we are automating 3 to 5 test cases in a day. If it is a medium test cases which includes around 20 to 25 test steps, then in that case we are automating 2 to 3 test cases in a day. But if it is a complex scenario, then you can say you are automating 1 or 2 test cases because it involves 50 or more than 50 steps, and also it is very complicated workflow. So in that case you can tell either 1 or 2 workflow we are automating in a day. Okay, for small 3 to 5, medium 2 to 3, and for complex 1 to 2 you can tell. Okay, so coming to the next question, what are the challenges you are facing in Selenium? So there are multiple challenges like window-based pop-up. Selenium is already handling web-based uh, kind of activities. Okay, it is a web-based application framework, so there is no problem to handle web-based related operations and all. It can easily do that, but the problem is sometimes we are getting window-based pop-up. Okay, So that is the one of the challenges we have to face. Test data related. Test data related means sometimes we are giving some test data which we are executing, and because of that our test case is passing continuously. But sometimes what is happening, developer or from the management team, they are not telling us that these are the test data we have changed, okay, and we are still executing the old data, and because of that our automation test cases is failing. So test data is really vital factor for us, so that we can use the latest data, and we have to execute our automation test cases. Sometimes we are not aware of that, and because of that old test data, many test cases are failing. So that is also one of the factor. Some of the challenges are dynamic web element, after page loading, sometimes ID is changing, sometimes name locator is changing continuously whenever you are loading the page or you are refreshing the page. So that one also you have to handle through contents starts with. Those are the locators you have to use to handle dynamic web element. But that is also one of the challenges. Stale element exception, I have already explained. Stale element exception part, you have to uh, refresh it, okay, or otherwise you can use the that particular condition inside a explicit wait, like presence of element, that particular uh, steps you have to follow to handle stale element exception. This is also one of the challenges. Page loading issue, sometimes your application is very slow, sometimes page responsiveness is very fast. Because of that, sometimes we are sometimes as the page is loading is very slow, because of that many test cases are failing, right? So that is also one of the challenges. Sometimes some of the builds are creating these kind of issues. Some of the builds it is working very fine, some of the builds has a lot of issues, and even page loading time is also, even performance is also very slow. So obviously performance is the main factor here for page loading part and all. But if it is slowly loading, obviously our automation test case will fail. So that is the one of the challenges. So we have to clearly um, mm, understand the performance part also of our web application. Okay, so that is also one of the challenges. Cross-browser testing, suppose you want to execute 30 test cases in Chrome and remaining 30 test cases in Opera. So sometimes what is happening, we saw different multi-threading issues. Okay, so that is also one of the challenges. And I've already created one of the video related to these challenges. You can go to my channel, Testing Tricks. You can go through what are the challenges I've explained. You can go through also. Okay. So, so yeah, so that is all from my side today. And I'm 100% sure those are the questions you will get in interview. Okay. Thank you so much.